Hello, and welcome to another episode of the Leaders Playlist. My name is Renee Craven, and today Anita Burke and myself are talking about the book, The 5 Dysfunctions of a Team by Patrick Lencioni. We hope you enjoy. Hi, Anita. How are you?
Hi, Renee. Really good. How are you?
Good. We've finished another book.
We have.
The book that we are going to discuss and the book that we've just finished reading is The 5 Dysfunctions of a Team, a leadership fable by Patrick Lencioni. For our listeners, this book, I would say it was refreshing. It was a nice change from the intensity of The Fifth Discipline, definitely, but other books as well. So if you're looking for a break from the more traditional leadership textbook kind of books, then definitely check this one out. It was a nice, refreshing read.
Yeah, big change, I think, from where we were at last time, and just an easy read. And because it's written like a story, it captures you and you get to know the characters and you get involved with where they're at and what they're doing. So yeah, a totally different way to write and to interpret a leadership book like that.
And this one was written in 2002, so it is still quite old, as in it's 20 years old, but very relevant. And I wish that I had read it sooner, a lot earlier in my career, especially as a Scrum Master and a team coach, because this book is very enlightening as around the 5 dysfunctions and how to address them or how to spot them and what are some of the things that you can try to overcome those dysfunctions.
Yeah, I agree. I was familiar with the 5 dysfunctions. They had come up in a course I'd done a long time ago. So I had exposure to the fact there were these 5 dysfunctions and what they were and how to identify them. But the book just explained it in a really great way. And there was having the examples and seeing a leadership team go through those dysfunctions and how they were displayed, and then the information around changing those things was just a different way to get that information. So I really enjoyed that. Wish I had read it when I first became aware of it.
Yes, I know. I was listening to a podcast the other day with Patrick and his team. Someone asked him, why did you call it the 5 dysfunctions? Because dysfunction sounds kind of negative. And he said, well, if he called it something like the 5 ways to be a high-performing team or a positive spin, that doesn't capture your audience as much as the 5 dysfunctions of a team. So I thought that was interesting.
That is, and also how many books out there are there that have that positive spin? So his kind of stands out in that different way.
The structure of the book is about 3/4 is the story of a leadership team going through those dysfunctions. And the last section of the book, Patrick covers each one of those dysfunctions in more detail. He has the description of what this dysfunction is, suggestions for overcoming the dysfunction, and then the section I liked the most, or the part of the section I liked the most, which was the role of the leader. If you want your team to overcome this dysfunction, then here is what you need to do as a leader. This is how you need to behave.
Yeah, I agree. That was really good stuff. And the other thing that he does is he connects it to the next dysfunction. So how there's kind of this almost a domino effect of, if you've got this first one, quite likely you're going to connect into the next one, and so on and so forth. So they kind of are all part of the same dysfunctions and connect to each other. And if you've got one, you've probably got more than one.
Yeah. And even if you overcome one, there's no saying that the next day you're going to find yourself back in that dysfunction.
Yes.
There is a team assessment in this book as well that teams can do. And on his website, there's a paid assessment, team assessment you can do, which I'm assuming is more detailed than the is in the book. And it gives you a report on like a colored triangle of where the dysfunctions are in your team. And
cool.
however many other teams that have taken this assessment, so they're able to kind of see from that data the most common dysfunctions that teams struggle with. And it's something you can take it in 6 months' time again and see how your team has matured or grown based on the work that they've done since the last time they took that assessment. Trust is the first dysfunction.
Yeah, and he gives a really great definition of trust as well, which I really liked. And he says trust is the confidence among team members that their peers' intentions are good and that there is no reason to be protective or careful around the group. And I just thought that was one of the better definitions that I've read, that truly trusting the people that you're working with is the ability to be vulnerable, but vulnerable in a way. And he gives a great definition for that as well, where he talks about vulnerabilities being weaknesses, skill deficiencies, interpersonal shortcomings, mistakes, and requests for help. Whereas I think a lot of people think of being vulnerable as oversharing personal stuff or being open to showing emotions with your team and things like that, which sure, that's nice as well. But to truly have that trust and to truly show those vulnerabilities where you can share that you've made mistakes or that you need help, particularly as a leader, I think, and setting that example for the team. What a difference. And to truly trust your team that they're not going to use that information against you. You don't have to hold that close to your chest and protect yourself. It's major. Yeah,
absolutely. It's something that I was thinking about a lot reading this book, is that, you know, as a Scrum Master and as a coach, we try and help teams come to a shared understanding. I don't know about you, but I use the word or the words shared understanding a lot. And when I unpack that now, those two words, when I unpack that now, it's more than, it's not just that silent agreement or that fake agreement, if you want to call it that. Just because people say that they understand or that they're in agreement doesn't mean that they are or that they do understand. And I've been unpacking that a lot, what I could possibly do in the future when it comes to creating that shared understanding, especially in an online world where people don't turn their cameras on, or, you know, you don't have that ability to just post-it note something out or write it on the whiteboard or, you know, discuss it and have like an activity within the room to try and create that understanding. Yeah, in an online space, it's a lot more difficult to get people to speak up.
And how often do we say on online calls and things, I'll take silence as agreement?
Yeah.
Which now makes me think that it's the worst possible thing to say. But it's often we use it as a way of kind of moving on and continuing to the next subject. But it is so bad. It's a habit I'm going to really actively try and stop.
I agree. And the other telltale for a lack or a fear of conflict in teams is, let's take that one offline, or let's have a chat about that later on.
Or make the other people on the call feel uncomfortable because there is that conversation happening.
Yes.
There's a bit of uncomfortableness.
Yes. And back to what you said before about your vulnerability, by taking that offline, it's like, well, I don't want to show them my true vulnerability. So it kind of eats away at those behaviors that you are trying to create in your teams.
And does it then, like, taking it away from the other people in the audience, does it then, like, if you were to have that conversation in front of the people that were there, would you politicize what you're saying in order to kind of be strategic about it so that the people in the room didn't think differently of you, which that's a pretty telltale sign too.
Yeah, another thing that I'll be watching for.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. The other thing that's kind of connected to that stuff is he mentions throughout the story the concept of a first team and who that first team is. And I've often thought when dealing with leaders and being a part of that leadership team versus the team that they lead, and seeing the difference between the two and how that leader interacts with each of those teams, where do they align to the most, and where should they align to the most? But Patrick talks about that first team having to be the leadership team, that if you are a leader, a part of an executive team or whatever it might be called, then that is your first team, and the team that you lead comes second. And that's probably a really challenging thing for a lot of leaders, but makes so much sense because you see those leadership teams being quite dysfunctional and the team they're leading, the leader being all about serving them, which is a wonderful thing, particularly when we talk about servant leadership and the role of a leader within an agile environment. But that is, and I don't think it's one or the other kind of thing. It's not necessarily being all about that executive team that you're a part of and sort of ignoring your other team. It's finding the balance, but your allegiance is to your executive team, your leadership team.
It is an interesting one because we do see that with leadership teams. And is it not clear? Like, have they not actually had that conversation to go, hang on, which team is my first team? And then what is their actual role with their second team? And I wonder if it's that manager mindset coming into the second team. Well, these people report to me, therefore I am responsible
for them.
I am responsible. Yeah. I wonder if kind of drives it a little bit, but I think the second team part is a perfect opportunity for leaders to be actual leaders. In the leadership team, they're team members. They're just team members serving a certain purpose at a leadership level. But in their second team, they're a leader of that team. Whatever comes with that, leading by example, giving them goals and trusting them to get the job done. And they will come to you if there's any vulnerabilities that they have to raise that they need your help with. But other than that, let them be their own first team.
Yeah. And I do think the purpose of that first team becomes really important when that first team needs to be aligned on the goals that they're all working towards, which gets relayed then to the second team, which avoids every team working on different things and having different goals. If that first team, if that leadership team can really collaborate together in order to achieve what they need to as a team, as an entire department or an entire organisation, whatever level it's at, that's how you get the teams delivering on the goals rather than that leader feeling like they are creating goals for that team, and then it becomes very individual based. And even the KPIs and things like that for that leadership team become very individualistic, whereas if they were rewarded as a collective, there would be a lot more need to work together in order to get it done.
The last dysfunction is results, where you're putting your team results ahead of individual results, which is exactly what you just said. And the first dysfunction of being comfortable with each other, that you hold each other accountable to, or the goal that you agree on as a team and the role that you are going to be playing in helping to achieve that result for the team. In the story part of the book, there was one question that I really liked that the leader asked her team when it came to coming up with an overarching goal for the leadership team. And because everyone on that team had different priorities and different things that they were accountable and responsible for. So they all had their number ones that they wanted, number one priorities, which we see all of the time. The question she asked her team was, if we do anything between now and the end of the year, what should that be? And that really focused them into, oh, okay, we've only got that much time. What's one thing that we want to know, we want to be known for, or one thing we want to achieve between now and the end of the year? And I think that's a good question, even for delivery teams, not just leadership teams, for any team.
Yep, agree.
Anita, would you recommend this book to others?
Yes, actively will be recommending this book to others. I'm passing it on to my husband to read next. I thought it was a really easy to read, great book with helpful information. Again, kind of nothing revolutionary and new, but just different ways to think about things. But yeah, I really enjoyed it. Really enjoyed it. It'll be one of those books that stays on my bookshelf and I refer to in the future. Then there's not too many of those.
You recommending it to your husband? He's not in our agile space. He's completely not agile space.
Even close, but he is a leader, so totally relevant. And he has that difference of first team and second team as well. So I think that will be helpful for him, and he enjoys that sort of stuff. So I think you'll like it. Yeah, any industry. There's not really any agile components to this book, but it's relevant for agile teams and non-agile teams, I think, and team members who are not leaders. I think it's also relevant.
Yeah, I think it's a great book for everyone to read. Everyone working in a team environment, that is, to be aware of, get their own understanding of each dysfunction, and then what they need to do in order to overcome them if it's in themselves, or help create that healthy team, and healthy in a way that they can course correct. They can call each other on stuff and course correct. They're never going to be harmonious all the time. It's really about being able to have those conversations so that you can work the best you can together for a long time.
Yeah, definitely.
Beautiful. Highly recommend. Thank you, Anita.
Thank you, Renee.
Thank you for listening to the Leaders Playlist. We hope you enjoyed our episode. Please be sure to tell your workmates, your friends, and your family about our podcast. Until next time.